Tip number one, you need to treat this like a technical interview. This goes back to the importance of the phone screening. Do your research on the company, okay? This goes back to that. Treat this like a technical interview. Hello, it's me. Hi. Hello, hello, hello. If you're watching this video, that's letting me know that you are in the process of either interviewing or you are about to get ready to start interviewing. And so what you're needing to know is pretty much how you're going to be able to master that did y'all just hear that country part of me? Yeah. So being able to master the very first part of the interview process, which will be the actual phone screening. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about 7 tips on how to prepare yourself for your phone interviews. You will have phone interviews, you will have technical round interviews, but before you can even make it to that technical round interviews, you have to master that phone interview. And I'm not talking about, when I'm saying phone screenings or phone interviews, I'm not talking about you talking to the recruiter. I'm not talking about you talking to HR. I'm talking about when the HR lady says, I'm gonna get you over, got you phone, I got you a phone interview for 30 minutes, 45 minutes with the hiring manager. Or when the recruiter says, I'm gonna get your resume over to the company, and you're actually speaking to someone at the company with that very first phone initial interview with someone from the company, not HR, not the recruiter. I'm talking about either the hiring manager, the IT director, that very first person that you're gonna be hosting a 30, 45 minutes, maybe even an hour interview with before you even get to that technical round, okay? So my thing is that I'm in this video, I'm going to talk about the 7 tips on how to prepare yourself for that phone interview so you can master it and get on to that technical round. Now, I would love to give shout outs to anybody who are actually going to use these 7 tips. And if you use them and you felt like they actually helped you and you made it to the second round, let me know. I would love to give you a shout out based on utilizing these 7 tips that I'm going to be talking about. And we're going to basically talk about the importance of your phone screening, okay? Where I'm going to also give you a breakdown of how the phone screening process actually goes. I'm going to give you the 7 tips, and then I'm going to give you some common phone screening questions, and I'm going to try to answer them to the best of my knowledge, okay? Take notes, do whatever you feel you need to do, pause the video, replay it over and over. The whole point is for you to basically understand what the actual phone screening is about and how to best prepare for it. And that's what I'm going to talk about here today. The importance of a phone screen, okay? Like, oh my God, like you just heard that you have a phone interview with the hiring manager and it's 30 to 45 minutes. And now you're all sweating and you're panicking and you're trying to figure out how in the world am I going to prepare myself for this interview? What, like, I don't even know where to start. Do I just study SQL? Do I do this? Do I do that? And honestly and truly, it's okay. Okay. All right. So number one, breathe. Okay. That's what I should have put there. Breathe, child. Okay, that's what I should have put there. So the importance of the phone screening is basically it allows the employers to quickly narrow down the candidates pool and focus on the most qualified individual. That's the reason why they even have phone screenings. This is why. Do you ever apply on a job with like Indeed and then or LinkedIn and you can see that 600 plus people have applied for the same job or 1,000 people have applied for this one job? And just you see that does not mean that you don't need to apply. It doesn't mean that, because this is what the whole point of the phone screening is for them to basically be able to narrow down the candidate pool and focus on who's the most qualified. So that means your resume will have a lot to do with you getting through the barriers of those 6 or 1,000 people who applied for those jobs. It's going to allow, but once you're actually selected, the phone screening process is for them to see exactly who they feel is worthy enough to make it to that second round. And so you're going to have to make that very first impression and really do the best that you can. And we're going to talk about those 7 steps on how you can basically be the best that you can be and how to prepare for it. But right now, the importance of it is just really just to make sure that they are trying to make sure that the person who's the best qualified actually makes it to the panel of people who are going to actually interview them and check out their skill sets. Okay. The phone screening interviews are important for making sure that the candidates are a good fit for the position and the company. Sorry. So this is my thing. I see a lot of my consultants get a job outside in the real world and then realize this is not the best job for me. So my thing is that, or maybe the company felt like, okay, you know what? Nah, what we don't want is for them to come, for you to come through, only have one interview, and then you get onto the job, and then they find out that you can't do the job. No. So this phone screening is just to see whether or not you are a good fit for the company, checking out your personality, seeing how well your communication skills are. All of those things are actually going to be, all of those things are actually going to be analyzed and reviewed in that phone screening. How well you interview those questions. Are you pausing? Are you searching for your words? Are you scrambling? Do you really know what you say? Are you really the person that we saw this based on your resume? All of this stuff is here. They provide employees with an opportunity to quickly assess a candidate's qualification and determine whether or not they are a good match for the role. It's good to have all the skills that you need, but what about your communication? Can you answer questions? Do you get frightened when they ask you a question? Are you searching for your words? Is your resume more than what you say you are? That's what the whole process of the phone screening is even about. Phone screening interviews are also beneficial for candidates as they allow them to get a better understanding of the job and the company before committing to a more in-depth interview. So that's a good thing. Whenever you're having that phone screening, you want to basically get a feel of whether or not the feel of the personality of the person that's interviewing you. You basically would need to ask questions before you get to that second round interview. Like what kind of person you are. Do you have an open door policy? Like how long have you been with the company? What is the longest the person has ever been here? That tells me if you have a revolving door, there's something wrong. But if you have longevity, that's telling me that you're doing right by your actual employees. So with that being said, this is the time for you to determine whether or not this is the best fit for you too as well. Because like I said before, I don't want you to get on the job and realize, yeah, this is not the best job for me. They don't really help me. Like they didn't really give me the information that I need. They came in, want me to do all of this, yada, 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 and I don't even know what a data warehouse is. You see what I'm saying? So my thing is that this is also the opportunity for you to get to know who this company is and figure out whether or not this person is very nice or, are they open? Do they have a good personality? Do they laugh? Or are they just really stiff? Like Bueller. I mean, listen, I just dated myself and I did, but still, like, you don't want to work for a company that's really stiff, you know what I'm saying? But if you got someone who laughs and talks and jokes with you and has a great personality on your interview, my thing about it is that this is probably a really good company. You see what I'm saying? So this is where you want to figure out whether or not this is the best fit for you. And you want to find that out in the phone screening. Also, we don't want you to make it past the phone screening, get all the way to the technical round, make it to the final, and then find out, oh, you have to come into the office every day. No, you need to find that information out in the phone screening. Like I said, before you commit to a more in-depth interview. Do they want you to relocate? Because I'm not willing to relocate all the way to Philadelphia. I'm just not. So I'm going to find that information out in the phone screening. All right. So find out whether or not this interview or this job is for you as well. Let me give you a breakdown of how the phone screening actually works. So most of the time, your phone screenings will be about 30 minutes, sometimes 45 minutes. So I know when I was going through my interview process, my phone screening, I had like a 15-minute phone call with the HR lady. After she asked me a few questions, she's like, okay, well, I'm gonna get your resume over to our actually hiring manager and see if I can book a time for you to meet with them and blah, 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 right? So the next thing you know, the same day, she sends me an email and tells me that to send her 3 dates and times of when I was available for an actual phone interview to meet with the actual hiring manager. And I actually met with the hiring manager, just one person, just one. And that interview lasted about 30 minutes. So my thing about it is that when I realized that my phone interview was going to be like next Tuesday and today's Thursday, then I was like, okay, I need to prepare myself. But I have to understand exactly what the actual phone interview process is, how this process is going to go, how the screening is actually broken down. So when you get to that phone screening, the first part is going to be introductions. Okay. The interviewer, he came on and he was like, hi, my name is X, Y, and Z, and I've been with the company for this long. And he gave me a brief overview of the company itself. In addition to the HR lady giving me the brief introduction of the company, but gave me an overview of the company, gave me an overview of the role, and then what it is that they were looking for. So he started telling me all about the company and the achievements that the company was making. It's just the time to write it down so that way you can reference it back again later. Okay, so he's telling me about the company, all the achievements that they've done, how fast they've grown, how long they've been in business, and things of that nature, what industry they work in. And so the craziest thing about it is that when I interviewed with him, he was like, one of our largest clients is the National Football League. And I sat there and I said, the NFL? And he starts laughing. He goes, yes, I just love it when people know that I'm talking about the NFL. I was like, well, when you say it like that, it kind of caught me off guard. So with him cracking jokes just in that phone screen, he let me know that he had a great personality. But my thing about it is that he's going to give you he or she is going to give you an overview of the company and the role, and then what it is that they're looking for. They're going to tell you that they need someone that's going to come in to do X, Y, and Z. They need somebody who can do da 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 da. So with that, then it's going to go into the background. Then it's going to go into your background. That should be about 5 minutes. This is just the background. We haven't gotten to the technical part. This is just the background. So he may ask you, tell me a little bit about yourself, which I'm going to cover that later on in the rest of this video. But he or she may ask you, tell me a little bit about yourself. This is where you're going to sum up your tell me about yourself story. You don't need to give the whole spiel of that 2-minute tell me about yourself story that you would give in an actual technical round. In the phone screening, you need to sum it up. Okay, and I'm going to talk more about that later on in the video. They may ask questions about the candidate's background, such as their educational background, previous work experience, and other relevant information. So at this time, they may actually be, your interviewer may be looking at their resume and saying, I see that you have experience working with CTEs, or you experience working with SQL. So can you give me your SQL experience? Can you give me your Power BI experience? Can you give me your Tableau, Click, Data Warehouse, ETL, business intelligence? What other business intelligence tools have you used? And things like that. How big is the company that you work for? How much data are you moving? These are the type of questions they're probably going to ask you because they want to know your background. Your background is important because they want to know whether or not if you are the person who's going to come in and hit the ground running, or are you someone that's going to need some time to get trained? So like if they say, well, Power BI is preferred, but it's not required. So that question may come up. Do you have experience working with Power BI? And then you're like, no. Then they may say, okay, no worries. We can actually train you. But now they know that you're not going to be someone who's going to come in and automatically just start creating dashboards. You're going to be someone that they're going to probably have to train on Power BI. And most companies are willing to train you on that. Okay, just really depends on it. But this is the time to check out your background. After they know utilize your background, now they want to get into maybe some technical questions. And this is probably going to be about 2 or 3 questions that they're going to ask you regarding your technical questions. Okay, so this is where you're going to need to make sure that you are actually giving like examples and more, or your experience and giving me more than what I asked for. Okay, this is where they're probably going to ask you about using DAX or using SQL, or have you utilized store procedures or troubleshooting store procedures, or how do you optimize your queries? What does your day-to-day look like? That kind of thing. All of those questions is probably what's going to be asked in your technical questions. Okay, and it's only about 2 or 3, and then that's it. And then at the very end, they're going to have some Q&A. They're going to ask you, do you have any questions for us? Yes, you need to have at least a minimum of 3 questions for the interviewer. Okay, now if they're telling you that you have to gather your own requirements, this is the time to say, well, okay, so you're saying that I have to gather my own requirements, but do we have a business analyst, or am I gathering my own requirements because you said you wanted to know whether or not was I comfortable gathering my own requirements? This is the time to ask those questions. Will I have to deploy my own projects, or do we have a release manager that does that for us? You know what I'm saying? That kind of thing. Like, these are the questions you need to ask. Is this a fully remote job? If that's really what you want. Okay, do I have what is it that I can do to be the most successful for this role? These are the questions you need to ask. All right. And then after that interview is up, once that's done, you want to know what's the next step. Ask them. So what's the next step? What happens after this? Because now you're eager. You want to know. You're interested in the job. So the thing is, ask. Ask like, so what are the next steps? What's going to happen next? What are we looking for? What are we looking at? Let them talk and say, okay, well, we do have other candidates, but what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the HR, and then we could possibly schedule a second round. And so you should hear something back from us by Thursday or Friday, right? So that way, if you don't hear something back by Friday, it's okay to send them a message, an email following up, or maybe they moved on to someone else. So let's talk about the 7 tips. Let's get into it. So tip number 1, you need to treat this like a technical interview. This goes back to the importance of the phone screening. Do your research on the company. Okay, this goes back to that. Treat this like a technical interview. That means you need to be basically taking a look at the company. So that way you can determine how much the pay range is going to be. Maybe they're going to ask you what the pay is. The HR lady probably has already, the HR lady or the recruiter man probably has already asked you that. So my thing about it is that you want to make sure that you already have an answer for that. Treat it like it's a technical interview. So that means you need to make sure that you're looking up the company. Even though you're only maybe talking to one person, maybe just a hiring manager, but understand the name says hiring managers. So that means that they have the final say so once you get done with the technical round. So the hiring manager or even the IT director has the final say so. So you want to make a great impression with the first person that you speak to. So treat it like a technical interview. So that means prepare yourself by actually looking up the company and finding out what they're about, finding out what their achievements are and what their growth is and things like that. Look them up on Glassdoor. Glassdoor actually allows you to be able to see the interviews, whether or not the interview was difficult, whether it was medium, whether it was easy. And then they may even list a few questions that was asked. Go on there and see. Some people may say, this is the worst company to work for. Run, do not come here, right? Or then there may be some people that say this is a really great employer, they care about their employees, and blah, blah, blah. You never know, but go on Glassdoor to figure out who they are and possibly how will the interview go. They have the whole layout of how the interview will go if you look on Glassdoor for that company. Also, talk with your actual mentor or someone that can actually help you prepare. Look over the job description, understand it. So my thing is that get a meeting with your actual mentor and go over the Glassdoor, go over the description, the job description, so you can get a clearer understanding of what it's about. Okay. Go on LinkedIn and look up the person that's interviewing you, because I've said this before. Even though this person that is interviewing you may be SQL heavy, 9 times out of 10, they're going to ask you SQL questions. So it's good to know what kind of person that is interviewing you. If you realize that the person that's going to be the very first person that's interviewing you is a project manager, look to see whether or not they're technical. But most of the time, you need to make sure you're preparing yourself for more scenario-based questions in this first round, because the project manager cares about how well you work as a team, how you meet your deadlines, what kind of ticketing platforms do you work on, what type of environment, agile, waterfall, that kind of thing. These are the questions that they're going to ask because it's important to them. Even though the job description is saying this and saying that, but the person that's interviewing you, they're going to ask questions what's important to them. Okay. So it is important. I cannot express it enough. It is important that you look up the person on LinkedIn that is interviewing you. If you cannot find it, stop being afraid to ask for what you want. Go back to the recruiter and say, hey, the person that's interviewing me, do they have a LinkedIn? Because I would love to find ways to connect with them in this interview. Ask. Stop saying, well, they didn't give it to me. Did you ask? Did you look it up? So my thing about it is look it up. Ask for what you want. Go on LinkedIn, Google the company, or go onto the company's website, and then also look over the job description so you understand what you're getting yourself into and what you can expect. It's important that you treat this like it's a technical round, because you cannot get to the technical round if you don't ace this. Tip number two, so I talked about it, understanding the job description. Like I said, reach out to your mentors or your peers for help to get a clear understanding. So this is what you need to do. When you have the job description, you know that you have a phone screening. Even if it's a phone screening, it's only 30 minutes. My thing about it is that you want to prepare yourself even for the technical round. So my thing is to take the job description and then reach out to your mentor and send the job description to your mentor. Then you're going to review and set up a time where you guys can meet and talk. I'm not asking for them to drill you and things like that. Just get a clear understanding of the job description. Okay. Then you need to review the job description yourself and then highlight all the ones or all the lines of the parts of the job description you don't understand. So that way, whenever you're meeting with your actual mentor, only talk about the things that you have concerns about. Talk about only the ones that you highlighted. So you can say, hey, fourth bullet point down, I highlighted it. This is saying, I have to gather my own requirements and blah, 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 blah. So is this saying that I have to gather my own requirements? Or maybe you could say, what company that you work for currently, do you have to gather your own requirements? Do you have a better understanding of how I can actually gather my own requirements? That kind of thing. So your mentor works in the field every day. So utilize them. But my thing is that don't waste your time on things you know. Focus on what you don't know so you can improve. They cannot, you orchestrate how you want your instructor mocks to go. Know the difference between required versus preferred. Whenever you're reading those job descriptions, if it says that we prefer someone who knows Power BI, then listen, I don't know the first thing about Power BI. I'm an SSRS girl, right? I'm an SSRS/SSAS person. That's who I am. I couldn't tell you the first thing about Power BI. Okay, but because it says preferred, I promise you that I am still going to apply for that job. Now, if it says it is required for me to know Power BI, then guess what? I'm not going to apply because it's required that I know. So I'm not going to waste my time nor theirs because I know that they're going to ask me questions about Power BI and I don't know. But at least with preferred, they have the opportunity to train me. So you have to make sure you know the difference between preferred and what is required. If it is required that you know C#, it is required that you know JavaScript, that's not the job for you. But if they said that it's a plus or is a plus or is preferred or whatever, apply. Okay. If you can understand and do at least 80% of that job description, apply. And don't try to do this on your own. Utilize your help. I don't understand the reason why people don't reach out to the people that they have direct access to who are doing the one thing that they're trying to do. To me, that makes absolutely no sense. It doesn't. And then you're saying, well, mentor, it's BI. No, but they can help you with SQL. No, but your mentor has access to other mentors that can probably get you to a Power BI. But your mentor can still help you with SQL because guess what? They're still going to ask you SQL questions. They can help you get an understanding of what the job description is asking for. So my thing is utilize your help. Stop trying to do this all on your own. Utilize your help. And then what's the crazy thing about it is that we will get people who will say, my mentor is not Power BI. So Mika, can you help me? Power BI. So why did you come to me? Well, my mentor is not Power BI. Neither am I, but you came to me. I can only help you with SQL. I couldn't tell you the first thing about SSIS or Power BI. I couldn't tell you anything about data warehouse because that's not what my specialty is. My specialty is helping you master your interviews and helping you out with personality and getting your foot through the door and helping you with resumes. And that's my specialty. Or unless you're going out for an SSRS/SSAS job, then I got you. But you come to me for Power BI, so why not go to your mentor for Power BI? Even if they don't have Power BI, I can't help you with Power BI either. So my thing is that stop trying to do this on your own. If what you have been doing has not been working, then guess what? You need to try to do something else to turn it around. Don't keep doing the same thing and expecting a different result when this haven't been working for you in the past. Utilize your help. Your mentor works in the field every day. You're trying to do exactly what they're doing. So why are you not going to ask the person who does it every day? Tip number 3, no distractions. Make sure that whenever you're getting ready for your interviews that you don't have any dogs, kids, or your phone issues. As you can tell, my phone, it keeps going off. But you don't have dogs. My dog's outside. Your kids, maybe they're at school, whatever, or put them in another room. Go to Starbucks, whatever you need to be. But make sure that you don't have any distractions, especially if this will be a remote job. The reason why I say that is because if you have the dog barking and then you got the kids coming up and running up to you while you're trying to do the phone interview, or they're coming to ask you a question and blah, 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 how can they trust that you're going to be able to do your work on a daily working from home without distractions? How do I know you're going to be able to come to a meeting via Zoom or via team meeting and without any distractions, without the dog barking, without the kids coming up, without the phone? So my thing about it is make sure you get rid of all of your distractions. It does not make sense for you to be sitting in an interview talking to someone and then all of a sudden your kids come running in the back, or they're screaming at each other, or they're fighting, or they're playing around, and all you can hear is the kids. This is the time that you lock your kids in the closet. I'm joking. I'm joking. That was a joke. You don't lock kids in the closet. I'm joking. But my thing is that maybe you can have someone come and watch your kids for you while you do this for 30 minutes. Or maybe if they are in school, then try to schedule time while your kids are at school. Don't do it when there's, where there's no school days. Or maybe you can go and don't go to the bathroom. Please don't do that. But maybe you can go and sit in your car in the garage, or whatever the case may be. Just go to a closet, but find somewhere there is no distractions. And then once the interview is over with, then go and address the chaos. So again, no distractions is very important. Tip number 4, prepare your answers. Preparing your answers before an interview will help you to feel more confident and articulate your thoughts more clearly. One thing that is very important is what I used to do when I used to interview is I used to basically figure out what kind of questions that could possibly be asked of me, and then I will come up with stories and ways for me to be able to explain it. I would practice in the mirror, and that would trip me out because I'm trying to answer the question while I'm staring at myself in the mirror, because that's actually how people see me. Right. So I want to see exactly how they see me. Am I sitting upright? Am I slouching? These kind of things. But the way I'm preparing my answers is very important. And then also it keeps me from fishing from my words. It keeps me from mumbling. It keeps me from rambling and things like that. So prepare your answers in advance. Have that out already, so that way you know exactly how you want to answer them. If they ask you a question about Power BI, I already know what story you're going to tell about your project. But make sure your answers are already prepared, okay? You can anticipate potential questions, like I said, and practice your answers in advance. And then preparing answers can help you to avoid getting caught off guard and ensure that you provide the best possible responses to the interviewer's question. So this is a good way for you to be able to give me more than what I asked for, give me your experience, and give me more than what I asked for. So prepare your answers in advance. Don't try to wing this. Treat it as if this is a real technical round interview, because you can get to that technical round if you don't ace this. I'm going to constantly keep saying that. Prepare your answers in advance. Tip number 5, have a cheat sheet. If you're doing it over the phone and have it on speaker or whatever, have a cheat sheet. I already know what you're going to say. I will basically write down how I'm going to start off. So the Tell Me About Yourself story, make sure I talk about this. And this is just a cheat sheet. Don't read it, but have a cheat sheet. You can write down if they ask questions regarding store procedure, talk about this. That's what's going to be on your cheat sheet. If they ask questions about temp tables, I'm going to talk about this. If they ask about DAX, I'm going to talk about this. That's what the cheat sheet is for. A cheat sheet can be used in a phone interview to help remember key points and facts that you want to mention during the interview. You can have note cards. It doesn't have to be a full-blown on sheet, an actual sheet. Get you some note cards. It can also provide quick reference for important facts about the company or industries that you are interviewing for. Additionally, it can help jog your memory if you get stuck on a question or need a reminder of your qualifications. So if you're talking about your SQL and then you just know that there's more, write it down and be like, oh yeah, also temp tables. I utilize temp tables because it actually helps with performance, and talk about it. Put it down on a cheat sheet so that way you can make sure you don't forget anything. So whether it is on a team meeting, It is okay to still have a cheat sheet, whether it is on the phone, it is still to have a good cheat sheet. Now, just remember, whenever you're doing an actual Zoom call or a team meeting, try not to look down as much as possible. If you need to, put it on the actual screen or whatever. And so, or put the note cards down here at the bottom of your laptop, whatever you have to do to make that work. Okay, so cheat sheets are very important. Tip number 6, as I've said, you always have questions. Okay, always have questions. You want to ask questions because you want to seem like you're very interested in the job. Okay, so ask questions, always have questions. So for the questions that I'm talking about is that at the end, they're going to say, do you have any questions for us? Let me help you out. I went to an interview and you went to the interview, and we both went to the same interview for the same company, same position. You go to the interview and you're all nervous and your underarm is sweaty and maybe you got some of the questions wrong and you just really just want this interview to be over with, but you really do want this job. You just want one more chance. And they ask you, do you have any questions for us? And you just want this interview to be over. And you're like, no, I don't have any. I think you answered all of my questions at this time. And they're like, okay, well, thank you. We'll get back in touch with you. X, Y, Z, blah, blah, blah. Then, right? But then I come along and they're like, okay, so do you have any questions for us? And I'm like, I do. So here's my question. You said earlier that about me having to gather my own requirements and things of that nature. So currently with the company that I'm with, we do work with business analysts, but there are times where I do have to gather my own requirements if a business analyst is not able to assist me on a certain ticket or a project. And so me having to gather my own requirements is not anything new to me. That is something I can definitely, that's part of my requirements and part of my job skill. So is that something that I will be doing here? Ask questions. So here's my question to you. So who do you think will actually get the job? The person who asked no questions and made it seem like they're really not interested in the job, or the person who asked questions because they wanted to learn more about the position? Me. I will be the one that will probably move on, or they would choose because I'm the one that made it seem like after the interview, I wanted to know more. I needed to know. After talking to them, I realized, okay, I have a few questions because again, you need to figure out whether or not this is the right job for you too. So ask questions, figure out if this is the right role for you. But it also shows that you are interested in this company. You're interested in the position. And so when you start asking them questions, it lets them know, oh, she's really interested. She had some questions for us and blah, blah, blah. So 9 times out of 10, I will be the person that will get the job versus the person who did not ask any questions. So always have questions. And at minimum, like I said, you can have at least a minimum of 3 questions, nothing less than 3. Have at least 3. I don't want you to get to a job and you find out it is not the right job for you. Ask whether or not they have an open door policy. And when you first get on the job, what is the first month going to be looking like? How does that look like here at this company? Ask. All right, and tip number 7, write down your questions you missed. I cannot express this enough. So in my group, in my WhatsApp group, I have my consultants who actually go on interviews. And so they put out a pre-interview question template and basically telling me exactly who the company is, who they're going to be interviewing with. I make sure that they look up their own person on LinkedIn and things of that nature, whether or not this is a phone screening. I want to know how well prepared are they? Did they book an instructor mock with their mentor and things of that nature? This is the questions that I want to know before they go on their interview, because I want to see how well prepared they are for their interview. And then how well do you feel about this interview? Okay. Then after they have the interview, they have to come back and do what we call a post-interview template. This is where they're going to tell me how well did they feel like, how prepared were they? So the first time they told me maybe they felt like they were a 3, but now maybe they've had time to talk to their mentor, blah, blah, blah. So how well do you feel like you prepared for? Maybe it was a 5 this time. Great. Okay. So what questions did they ask you? Writing questions you missed in an interview can help you prepare for future interviews by giving you a better understanding of the topic discussed and the type of questions asked. The very first time I went on my very first interview for data analytics, I did not know what to expect. I didn't even know how to prepare for the interview. And so when I went, I did not do well. I bombed it. It was, child, listen, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. If you thought that you could just throw a bomb on a house and it just comes tumbling down. That's exactly how that interview went, because they threw the first question and I immediately crumbled. I died. Okay. So my thing is that I didn't even know how to prepare for it. I didn't even know what to study for or what kind of questions they were going to ask me. I was completely in the dark on that very first interview. And it could have done one, two things. It could have tore me down or it could have better prepared me. And it did the opposite. It better prepared me. Okay. So my thing about it is that writing down the questions that you might have missed will allow you to keep from missing the same question over and over. That is the most important. It keeps you from missing the same questions over and over. The whole point of you going to interviews is so that way you can be better prepared for this interview than you were for the last. So that way you should be doing better in this interview than you did in that interview. You should not be still missing the same question in every single interview, because it does not show growth. It doesn't show progress. So my thing is that, yeah, the questions they asked me, I didn't really know. I wrote them down. And then I told myself, okay, I know what to expect now. Now I know how the interview is actually going to go. Now I know exactly what kind of questions they're going to ask me. Now I knew exactly how to prepare myself. So to keep you from having to go through one bad interview that could possibly break you, I'm trying to tell you in advance what to expect. Okay. So write down the questions, any questions that they might have missed, that you might have missed, write it down and then go back and research it. Google will show you exactly what it is and how to write the syntax, but YouTube will show you exactly how to use it. That's important. Any question you don't know, go back and figure it out. Research it. Go back to your mentor and discuss it. If y'all have a scrum, or if you want to meet with him one-on-one, him or her one-on-one, or if you want to talk to your IPPC instructor or whoever, then talk about it. Go over it. You want to talk about it with me? Post it in the group and say, hey, how would you answer this question? Because it was asked of me and I wasn't sure exactly how to answer it. I'm going to ask you what was your research on it, but I have no problem answering the question. Heck, it might be a question I don't know. And I'll be like, Chad, let me look this up. And I'm going to do the exact same thing because I'm not perfect. Also, number two, it can also help you to identify the areas where you need to improve your knowledge or skills. Okay. So my thing is that if you know so much about Power BI, like you got every Power BI question right, you got every click question right, but they turn around and ask you about the merge statement within SQL. You'll be like, wait, what? Please don't say, well, in the position I'm in right now, I actually don't use that. Yes, you do. Okay. So my thing is that this gives you an opportunity to find out what your weaknesses are. And so that way you can work on it. Here's a question for you. They may say, tell me about your weakness. What I don't want you to say is, well, because I actually had a consultant who came to me and said, well, I just told them that sometimes I have a hard time getting to work on time. What? But I want it. You step out of the deck, that, right? So I'm going to help you to figure out ways that you can be able to answer questions based on your weaknesses. How would you explain what your weaknesses are and things like that? Tell me about the time when you and a coworker didn't get along. Tell me about the time where the business analyst or the client end user did not like your report or whatever. How did you resolve it? Walk me through on how you gather your requirements. You see what I'm saying? So these are some of the knowledge. You may know your tier 2 tool, but the everyday, day-to-day stuff, they're going to ask you questions, and that's probably where your weaknesses are because you're not in the field. So these are the times where these are the things you want to focus on. Figure out, say, hey, how would you answer what does my day-to-day look like? How do you answer who is Colaberry? How do you answer why am I leaving? That kind of thing. Okay. Number three, taking notes during the interview can help you to remember important points that may come up in the future interview. Number four, writing down questions you missed can allow you to go back and review them later. And then number five, keeping track of questions you missed can also help you to recognize patterns and develop strategies for answering difficult questions in the future interview. So in my group, as I was saying, when they do those posts, it's not for me, it's for the other consultants who are in that group. And so if they'll get to see some of the questions that other people have posted. If you see a question you don't know, you'll write it too, because it could come up for you. Maybe not with the same company, but for a different company. So if you realize that one of your peers went on an interview, it doesn't have to be the same company. But if your peers went on an interview and then they posted some of the questions that was asked, if you don't know some of them, write it down for yourself. The whole point is for you to grow and to progress. You should not be on interview number 12 and you are still not getting past that first interview. You should not be going on 12 interviews before you get your offer. I would say at the most 4 or 5 interviews, and that's a wrap, because you should be improving every single time. So for me, I went on my, like I said, I went on that very first interview and I crumbled. I did not do well. But on that fourth interview, I got my offer because I figured out what it was that I was weak in, because I was writing down the answers, the questions that I did not know. And then when I went on that second interview, I wrote down some more questions I did not know, but they asked me some questions. The second interview asked me some questions that was asked me in the first interview, and I was able to answer it because I did my research. Okay. And then by the time I got to that third, I did well. And by the time I got to that fourth, I mastered it and got my offer. Like the fourth one, I was so comfortable to the point where they were like, hey, would you like to schedule an interview? We can schedule it tomorrow if you like. I was prepared. I was ready. And like, no, I don't know every question they're going to ask me, but I'm going to do whatever I can. I'm going to Google and do whatever I have to do to figure out what are the top SQL questions, what are the top SSRS questions, what are the top SSAS questions. And anyone I don't know, I'm going to write it down. I'm going to Google, I'm on YouTube. This takes time, but you have to invest in yourself because no one is going to invest in you like you will. So let's talk about some of the common phone screen questions. Okay. So like I was saying, one of the common questions that they may ask you actually in a phone interview is tell me about yourself. So in this, because it's the phone interview, you're going to use what we call the seat method. First, you're going to start with S's, where you're going to start talking to me about your skills. Okay, I utilize my skills. I have skills in SQL and SSIS, SSRS, SSAS, Power BI, Tableau, Click, business intelligence, blah, blah, blah. And then the E stands for experience. I'm going to talk about my experience, how I work for Wells Fargo and how I work for Allstate Insurance and how I work for Horseman and how I work for Allstate and how I work for Berkeley Entertainment and now how I work for S3 and how I work for Colaberry Incorporated. Like, I'm going to talk about my experience and my role. So the company that I work for, my role, and what was the whole reason why they brought me. Then the A will be for achievements. What achievements did I make? What achievements did I have? I created a dashboard that basically recognized trends that shows that we were losing money during the pandemic, or how much energy we were actually using when working for Duke Energy, how much energy we were actually utilizing between the year 2020 and 2021. Okay. Or yeah, 2020 and 2022, how much energy were we using? Then this gave them the opportunity to go back and see what kind of rates can we offer this to, we can offer an actual our customers to keep them coming back or to keep them from leaving. So do we now introduce free nights and weekends? Do we now offer different rates between a certain time, that kind of thing. So that's the achievements. That's some of my achievements that I've done, or I've gotten certified in Microsoft. These are some of my achievements. And then team, tell me who I am. Tell them a little bit about me. Tell them what kind of person that I am, that I'm a person that's going to basically do more than what you ask for. I'm going to not just fix a problem just for today, but make sure that it doesn't break in the future. I'm that person that's going to show up and be the first person that's going to be able to answer the question, to be the first person who's going to step out and say, yes, I'll do it when no one else will. I'm that person. I'm the person that's going to stay late and come in early. I'm the person that's going to volunteer whenever something new comes up. I'm that person that's going to take initiative and tell you on how we can improve, or what is some of the newest technology that has just come out. These are some of the things that you need to tell them about who you are. Why are you leaving your current company? It is okay, especially if you're working for Colaberry Incorporated, it is okay to say your contract is ended, because contracts do end. And even if it's saying, well, I was here for 3 years, okay, you might have been here for 24, had a 24-month contract, but then next thing you know, they ended up extending your contract. That happens, okay? Or for me, it would be, so currently the reason why I'm looking for another opportunity is that I'm looking for a company that's going to basically utilize my skill sets to the max, to the fullest. I want to maximize my skill sets. And then also, I currently work from home, but I realized that with this company that I have the opportunity to have a hybrid where some days I'm in the office and some days I'm at home. And so I just miss their interaction. I miss that face-to-face collaborations that I have with my peers. It's good to read faces and to talk to people without making any type of assumptions about what people may be seeing, what the meaning of what they're maybe saying, and to be able to collaborate and to be able to plan together. And then also, because the fact that I do have children, being able to provide them with benefits for my family is very, very important. And the last but not least, it allows me to be able to separate my work from my personal life. All right. So that could be just one of the reasons why maybe your contract is ending, or maybe you were looking for benefits, or maybe you were looking to have more of a face-to-face interaction, or, whatever the case may be, just be creative. What salary are you looking for? When you don't know the pay range, number one, do a search within your area for that position. So if you're going out for business intelligence position, what is the rate? What is the going rate for business intelligence position in your area, in North Carolina, in Texas, in Houston, in Austin, in Dallas, in Chicago, in California? Like, what is the pay rate? Because I'm pretty sure that the pay rate in California is going to be higher than what it is here in Texas. Okay. So you want to figure out and do a search of what you feel like the paying going rate is for. Now, if you searched up 7 different companies or looked on Indeed and found 7 different jobs, and only one of them said 120,000, but the other ones were saying 80 to 90, then you might want to stick with that 80 to 90, because there was only one job that was actually giving 120. You can't say, oh, well, there's one for 120, I'm going for 120. I don't want you to come in too high, and I don't want you to come in too low. So what I need you to do is to make sure that you research what the going rate is for that position in your area. And then last but not least, figure out the company. Microsoft can pay you 120,000. But if it's a startup company that only has 10 people on their team, 9 times out of 10, they can't pay you 120 because they don't have the budget. A Fortune 100 company does not have the same budget as a Fortune 500 company. So you got to figure out what is it that the company is, how the company is doing. Are they losing money? Are they a profitable company? That kind of thing. So if you come in too high, one or two things can happen. One, if you interview really, really well and they really do like you, then they're probably willing to negotiate and say, hey, is there any kind of wiggle room that, you can be willing to negotiate the pay? Or two, if they felt like there was other people that they've interviewed and they've done really well and they're within their pay range, and they'll probably come back and say, unfortunately, we can't pay that. So unfortunately, we will not be able to move forward with this interview. So they're either going to be willing to negotiate or be able to say, we can't meet that, and then just end it. Okay. So it's very important that you go in and you do your research. Now, I get it. A lot of people say, well, I can't go there because my friend is making $100,000, and I get it. I get it. But best believe, I tell people this all the time. If you're making $100,000, they're going to want $100,000 worth of work out of you. I promise you that. It is okay to come in making $85,000, $90,000 and starting. You get that experience, get the hands-on job experience with pay. Because 9 out of 10, you probably wasn't making 80, 90,000 before. So it's more than what you're making. Get the experience, get the real life working environment experience first. And then once you've been there 6 months, 9 months, maybe a year, and now you're ready to spread your wings and go find a job that's willing to pay you 100,000, then do that. But if you cannot code, then how do you expect someone to pay you $120,000 if you don't feel comfortable writing SQL code? You see what I'm saying? Get the experience first, learn everything that you need to, and then if you're willing to move on, then do that. And then inform them that you're willing to move on, because you never know. If they feel like you're doing a really good job, they may actually give you what you ask for. But don't come in with arrogance thinking you're supposed to get 100,000 when you feel like, if I had to rate yourself between 1 and 5 what SQL is, and you give yourself a 2, then why would I pay you $100,000 if you don't even know how to code? Another thing, what is your SQL experience? Know the answer to this already. It is okay to go in and say, my SQL experience, I can not only just create tables, but I can maintain and troubleshoot store procedures, user defined functions, CTEs. I utilize views and joins, temp tables, things of that nature. I can optimize my queries and troubleshoot slowly running store procedures. Talk about your SQL experience. Talk about it. Tell me about your tier 2 tool. So it could be, tell me about your Power BI experience. Tell me about your Tableau experience. Tell me about your Click experience. Tell me about your data warehouse experience. Tell me about your business intelligence experience. They're going to ask these questions in addition to wanting to know what is your SQL experience. And then last but not least, who is Colaberry? Who is Colaberry? Colaberry. So if someone's looking at my resume while I'm in an interview and they're like, "Who is Colaberry?" I've been seeing them around lately. Who are they? Colaberry is a consulting firm. So basically, I have the opportunity to work with several different clients from multiple different industries. And so Colaberry gives us contracts us out to go work for those companies, and I create reports or dashboards or packages or whatever it is you want to say that you do for them. And then once my contract is up, Colaberry will either extend it to where I can maintain those reports or the work that I've done with this company, or they will find me another client within Colaberry. But if they don't have anything that's available at the time, they will actually help me go and find another company outside of Colaberry. Okay, so you're not going to say Colaberry is a school. You're not going to say that. Colaberry is a consulting firm. And if they want to know who are some of the clients, tell them go to colaberry.com. Go to colaberry.com and you will see who we are and the clients that we work with. Colaberry also does upskilling, so maybe you can go back and get your upskilling. If you don't know what upskilling is, Google it. These are some of the common questions that you should already have answers for before you go to your interview. So tell me about yourself. Why are you leaving your current company? What salary you are looking for? What's your SQL experience? What is your tier 2 experience? And who is Colaberry? These are the top 6 questions that is normally asked in that first round interview. They want to know who is Colaberry. They want to know why you're leaving. They want to know what your pay range is. They want to know about your SQL experience. They want to know about your Tableau experience. They want to know a little bit about yourself. They want to know why you're leaving the company. And that might be question number 2, might be a question from the HR person, but it could still be asked of you in the actual interview. Why do you feel like you're the best person for this role? Okay, so these are the questions that you should already have answers for before you even get to that first round interview, before you even get there. Alrighty, so that's the end of this actual presentation. I really do appreciate it. I really hope that the little nuggets that I've given you today is going to actually help you. And if you utilize any of these and you feel like that it has helped you move on to the second round, let me know. I would love to give you a shout out in my very next video that we're going to post. And so in my next video, we're going to talk about how to actually review your interviewer on LinkedIn and what are some of the ways that I look at to help me understand exactly what kind of questions they're going to ask me. Who are they? What are they about? How do I know what kind of questions they're going to ask me? That kind of thing. What parts of their LinkedIn profiles do I look at to help me understand exactly who it is and how I can relate to them? So stay tuned for that video. And these common phone screen questions, they were actually listed in the first handout that I gave out in the workshop. If you were not able to attend the workshop, we will put the link down in the description for you. So that way you can go back and look at the actual workshop. It was a really, really great experience, a great time. And I go over basically how to prepare yourself for interviews or how to do your interviews, basically how to get through your interviews and things like that. So now with this one, again, this is to help you with your 7 tips for your phone screening. The next one is all about me breaking down LinkedIn profiles and how I review them to help me prepare for an interview. Okay. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.